Expect that the company will be honoring all of the elements of that agreement, including severance, etc. But you know, the reality is that we have to continue to push in the country, and us as a union that represents tens of thousands of media workers, to get government to do what it is that they promised to do, which is to make sure that we save local news.
Hundreds of people are staying in Windsor right now who are seeking protection in Canada after leaving their home country. They're known as asylum seekers, many associated with Roxham Road in Quebec. The city says 518 people are here in Windsor right now. They started arriving last month. The city says upper levels of government need to help cover costs of wraparound services. Many of them are staying at hotels or at the Matthew House, where Windsor Morning's Nav Nanwa went to hear firsthand how people are ending up in the city. Nav, we've heard a lot about Roxham Road, and you actually spoke with somebody who crossed through that border. Tell us about them.
Yeah, I got to go to Matthew House yesterday, which is one of the local shelters here that's taking in some of these refugees that are coming into Windsor, and got to meet a family, actually. The man's name was Alvar Mauricio Lavasa, and him and his wife, as well as their 3 daughters, made the trip from Roxham Road all the way to Windsor, and they're originally from Colombia. And we didn't really get too deep into what brought them to Canada. But Kat, the one thing I'll tell you is it was very just moving, kind of hearing about their journey coming into Canada. They originally had their sights set on Toronto, were forced to go on a bus to Windsor because Toronto just couldn't accept any more people. They were unsure about Windsor, but then when they got to Matthew House, they were very grateful because there was somebody there that spoke their language that could interpret for them as well. And these are people that have really good skills back home. They were both accountants, and they're hoping that if they can settle here, that they can continue on being accountants and setting up their future for their kids. And I had a chance to speak to them through a translator, and here's a bit of my conversation with Alvar.
Nosotros pasamos por México.
They came all the way from Colombia, then Colombia to Mexico. Then from Mexico, they came to United States. They came through mostly for land, all the way from the El Paso, from United States, by airplane. And after that, they were by land and then by airplane until they got all the way to New York. And from New York, they got a bus and then all the way to Plattsburgh, and then Plattsburgh to Lacolle and Roxham Road in Montreal.
But we also know that not everybody crossed through Roxham Road in Quebec. So what other kinds of stories did you hear?
Yeah, and that was really surprising to me. About 40% of the refugees that are at Matthew House right now came through Roxham Road. The other 60% used regular border points of entry to get here, such as Pearson Airport. I spoke to one woman in particular. She's from Nigeria. Her name is Idi Mudia Kandi, and she is someone that used to be a nursing assistant and a farmer back in Nigeria. She came over here with her 3 kids. Her 3 kids are going to school now in Windsor. She's been here for just over a month. Someone who's very grateful to be here, and it very much seems like she wants to settle here. And here's a little bit of my conversation with her.
When I get to Windsor, Matthew House they have been there for me and my kids. We just the day when I came to Matthew House here, I would just the first day I would say, how am I going to sleep? How am I going to survive here? I was crying down night. It's immediately the day I just sleep, I wake up, I was just okay. They gave me everything. I was just okay. My kids, they were okay. They said, Mommy, thank God we find a place. So Windsor is okay. I like Windsor. I don't want to live here for the rest of my life. I don't want to.
And that was just one of the people I had a chance to speak to. Like I mentioned, Kat, I got to speak to a number of different people yesterday. And even with my conversation with Mike Moranci, who runs Matthew House, one of the things I got from him that really stood out in my mind was the fact that he feels like right now there's a lot of emphasis on these refugees coming to Windsor and the fact that Windsor doesn't have any space. But he feels like more emphasis should be put on the fact that these refugees are coming with skills that can ultimately benefit our community. And he hopes that the narrative changes over time.
So important to learn about their stories. Thanks for this now.
Thanks, Kat.
Police in Ontario say they've broken up a Toronto area human trafficking ring that was exploiting people for labor. They say 64 people from Mexico were forced to work at farms, factories, and warehouses. The CBC's Ali Chasson reports.
In early February, police executed search warrants of different properties in Toronto and the GTA. Investigators located dozens of workers who they say were lured to Canada.
Our members were shocked at the conditions that the victims were living in.
Described as squalid and cramped, some were in cold farmhouses. In total, 64 Mexican men and women were rescued.
They also described forms of coercion and control, which included isolation, a lack of freedom, being financially bound, threats, and sexual assault.
These workers are coerced with promises of a better life, decent wages, quality housing, and eventually documentation. These are almost always false promises.
Instead, they toiled in factories, warehouses, and on farms.
Fueron condiciones difíciles y duras, ambientes laborales.
CBC News spoke to a man who was a victim of this trafficking ring. He had responded to an online ad for work in Canada. Soon enough, he was working on a farm packing fruit while living in a house with 40 other people.
Realmente era algo difícil. Era algo difícil por la situación de que había mucha basura. Había colchones solamente en los cuartos donde dormíamos hasta 2 por colchones individuales, donde pasábamos frío.
We've granted the man anonymity as he fears deportation. He managed to get out before the Project Norte raid, which resulted in the arrests of 5 people, 2 Canadians and 3 Mexicans. 2 suspects are outstanding. As for the workers or temporary foreign worker agencies that could also be implicated in this,
That part of the investigation is still being looked into. It has become a bit of a web, so just trying to unravel that web to really understand the full story.
the Canada Border Service Agency says the rescued workers do not face deportation as they are victims of a crime. Meanwhile, the man who escaped this human trafficking ring hopes that Project Norte becomes the catalyst for dismantling migrant worker exploitation.
Principalmente que tuvieran cuidado. Ahora sí que de estas personas que abusan de la necesidad del mexicano, ¿no? Y de un sueño canadiense, porque te prometen papeles, te prometen...
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Got a live look outside there. That's traffic moving along Riverside Drive. Terrible conditions out there. And a winter storm warning has just been issued by Environment Canada. We're also hearing about a growing number of outages throughout the city as well. We're keeping a close eye on this. And Colette Kennedy will be here with our forecast right after the break. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy joins us now as the snow continues to fall on Windsor. It's officially a winter storm warning. So Colette, just give us the latest on what to expect.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that and kind of fill you in with this very complex system. At least it's complex for southwestern Ontario, and I'm going to walk you through why. Looking at the temperatures, we've been going up and down from right around freezing to just above. Same thing with Sarnia, was at 1, then down to freezing, then 1. So yes, the mixing occurring when that temperature gets above 1, but when it's right there at freezing, more of a snowfall event. So temperatures are crucial in here. Overnight, I'm anticipating the reading being at freezing and kind of settling there, nearly steady. So what does that mean? It means in most cases, other than along that north shore of Lake Erie, we're talking about a snowfall event, even in this region. And that's why it's no longer just a winter weather travel advisory. It's now a winter storm warning. And the reason it's not just a snowfall warning is because of the winds. You factor those in. We've got blowing snow, reduced visibility. So that puts it into the winter storm warning. And I did see a gust here. We had towards Windsor up over 70 kilometers an hour, even though these are what the current gusts are. They're bad enough, 60 to 70, but I've seen gusts stronger than that. We've got some thunder snow here into Michigan. You can see that line of where it's rain or it's a little bit of a mix, and then it's snowfall. And at times that mix kind of peaks up a little bit further north, and that's because of the temperature profile, not just at the surface, but in the atmosphere above the surface as well. So as we go in and have a look at what's going to happen here, I'm going to show you those accumulations. There's that winter storm warning that now extends all the way through. It's through much of Ontario. You don't want to be traveling not just in this region, but anywhere for tonight until this moves out. It will improve in the morning hours here. But I want to show you what's going on in terms of that timeline. So it stays mostly as snow other than hugging along that north coast there of Erie. And then we're going to see 3 a.m. Here, it's still heavy snow, London and onwards, but we're actually seeing it breaking up and moving on. Winds will still be strong, but not as strong, turning towards the north. And then tomorrow in the morning, overcast. We'll still deal with the winds. By the afternoon, those will back off and we'll get some clearing and the temperature actually going above freezing. So this is very heavy, wet snow, very hard to shovel. You certainly have to take it easy. But we're going to find it melting, or at least some of it, because of that temperature rising through the afternoon hours. And then just want to show you late Saturday night, a shot of some rain showers or a bit of mix coming through. That will be light, nothing to concern ourselves with like we are with this. I've got to go in here for a closer look. I want to focus in. 10 to 20 centimeters. I know that seems pretty extreme in terms of what a range. Just a little west, it's going to be over 20 centimeters. A little east, Chatham-Kent, probably a little lower. So I actually think Windsor, we're going to be closer to that 20 centimeters, but in a very short area, we're going to find drastically different snowfall totals because of how this is moving through. And then look at those mild temperatures. It will melt this, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, what a strange weather event. Thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we're going to get another update from Jennifer LaGrassa. She's currently out in that snowstorm. We'll check in with her after the break. Stay with us. We're going to bring back our Jennifer LaGrassa now as the snowfall continues to come down on us. Jen, you've been a true trooper for us. Thank you for being out there. Give us the latest.
Yeah, so what we know, Kat, is that there's a couple thousand outages across the city right now. I'm going to show you a map from NWIN, and what it's going to show you is that the areas that are more red, there's 1,000 people or maybe even more in those pockets that are without power. When I spoke with NWIN today, they were just reminding people that if your outage is not on that map, you can call in. Their customer service is going to be available. If you see any downed and active wires, stay away from those. And as well, what we're seeing is some collisions. So when we're looking at the 401 there at Chatham-Kent, there's a couple collisions between Chatham and Tilbury. Again, I just want to remind people, Environment Canada telling them that there is going to be reduced visibility. So if you were going to travel on that 401 or go outside of Windsor, you might want to rethink those plans or check the roadways. Again, this blowing and this wet snow, it's very, very powerful. Wind gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour. So it's really reducing the conditions. I'm sure you can see the road behind me. There's just cars that are driving a lot slower than usual, just to be extra cautious. So hoping people will be safe tonight. Kat.
Thanks so much for this, Jen. That's CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reporting live in the storm for us tonight. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. And you can have all of the latest on the storm on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night and a great weekend. We'll leave you with another look at the storm.